Hi, so you mentioned in our last session that you're going to be working on the cell cycle and mitosis and meiosis. So I wanted to start with a little overview before we kind of going into the nitty gritty of anything or any possible questions that you might have on the topic. Okay, so first I wanted to pull up, I hope you can see this. If we were sharing the screen, I would definitely be having something so you could see it. But if not, I wanted to kind of go over the possible cell cycle that we have. Okay, so remember that in mitosis, so within mitosis, we're going to start talking about the cell has a few different cycles that we want to go through. And one of them is the S phase. So what happens in the S phase? That's when DNA replication is happening. So remember when we were going through the central dogma of biology, it's DNA to RNA to protein. So here DNA is going to replicate. So we're going to make a lot of copies of itself. So that's really important. So when the cell divides, it has enough DNA to give each of these daughter cells. Okay. So hopefully you're okay with that right now. If not, just chime in at any time to let me know if you have any questions or if I'm going too fast. Okay, so we got DNA replicating in our S phase. Then it goes into the next phase, which is the G2. And in the G2, the cell just kind of divides and it gets ready. So what does that really mean? So as the cell divides, the cell's not fully dividing. What's dividing really is the organelles. It's making extra copies. So when the cell does divide in mitosis, it has that enough cytoplasm for the cell, so the cell can kind of continue on. Okay. So then we get to the M phase, and that's the mitosis phase. But before I go into detail on that, I want to kind of just finish the cycle, and we'll talk a little bit more on mitosis because that's big thing. So the next thing from that is that we'll go into the G1. So after mitosis, we go into the G1 cycle. What's happening there? So the cell enlarges, so we're getting a lot more again, like cytoplasm is going to be making a lot more. The cell is enlarging because it's know that eventually it's getting prepared for division, and also more proteins will be made. What happens after that? So then you have a G0 phase, and that's really if it misses, there's certain checkpoints within these different phases. So within that, then you're able to see if it should go on to the next phase. So if it doesn't, if it misses the first checkpoint, it goes into a G0, which we call senescence. It's almost like it's sleeping. Think about like Sleeping Beauty. Kind of like in that suspended sleep. That's what the cell's in. Okay. And then it'll go to S and all that. So it goes G1, S, G2, mitosis. So mitosis is at the end. Okay. So I just want to show you a little picture of mitosis. There you go. So this is, wish we could have a bigger screen. So this is, oh, sorry, wrong page. This is the page that we've got mitosis going on. Okay, so what's happening in mitosis? The idea is we have one cell, think about it that way, and it's diploid, so it has all the amount of chromosomes. If it's diploid, we want to make more copies. We want to keep it diploid, so it's not going to be haploid like we have in meiosis, which are in our sexual gametes, so our egg and sperm cells. So we want to keep them haploid because these are our somatic cells. Every other cell in the body is what we want to think about. Okay, so we've got prophase where the cell is going to start, the nuclear membrane is going to start kind of breaking apart. Centrioles are going to form kind of, if you think about it as a circle, they're going to go to start kind of migrating to each of the poles. We'll have spindle fibers kind of forming, and that'll go to our next phase at metaphase. So our chromatids kind of uncondensed. They're going to be like the little X's that we see, and they're going to line up. So if we have a circle in that center of the plate, they'll line up. Spindle fibers will kind of come and start pulling them apart, and that's going to be an anaphase. Telophase will kind of start happening, and then you'll get this they'll kind of go to each of the poles, the chromatids, kind of like a circling in here, pulling apart, and we get the two cells. So that's the kind of the easy part uh, of mitosis, like in a nutshell. So as we go on, I want to go through the actual each step of what's going to happen, what's happening to the DNA and everything as we go on. So do you have any questions? I know that was a brief overview, but just let me know and chime in at any time. Okay. So I'm going to leave it to you. You tell me if you've got any questions or what the next topic should be. Okay.